Here's the microbes. Bacteria. A whole plethora of bacteria. Fungi. If you read this book on the trees in Germany, the largest plant living thing in the world is a fungi. Some fungi can be 60 miles of a hillside. And they have found that trees communicate with fungi. If a beech tree, most of this work was done on beech trees in Germany. See, all their forests are protected. They have more than 80 million people in a small area, and so they know every tree, they protect them. If the tree dies, they replant two, they pick up all the limbs, and they do a lot of research. And they found out that these trees put out a pheromone to talk to the other trees, and they can communicate. They can feed a daughter tree way over there that got injured sugars through the fungi. Interesting book. Interesting book. And so anyway, fungi is huge. LJ, when you hear LJ, think sugar. Think sugar. Wisconsin has a lot of hills, a lot of hardwood forests in the lower 2/3. And about 7, 8 years ago, we had 2 winters where we had huge snowfall. 4 or 5 feet of snowfall in the woods. And in the Wisconsin Conservationists, it showed how everything a turkey eats is on the ground. And it showed turkeys on the north side of the woods, and they were picking LJ off the trees. And they were living from the sugars of tree LJ, and they didn't lose any turkeys. And they thought, we're going to lose our whole turkey crop. And these turkeys went to this LJ, and that's full of sugar. So that produces sugars for these others to feed on. This is all symbiotics. Yeast, molds, amoebas, one-celled animals are proliferated in the rumen, protozoa, little nematodes, arthropods. One of the things I do, here's lichens, earthworms and dung beetles are different. If you look in my book, in the first few pages, I'm in Holland. See, Holland was on the old European organic system in that they could use any drug for 3 times. So the rest of the world said, we're not buying any organics from Holland because that's not true organics. Organic Valley had a marketing relationship with Holland because they could sell some cheese. P.2 cheese, and Organic Valley was making cheese, and so they wanted to import or export some of their dairy, and we didn't know anything to do with it. And neither did China, so they talked to my boss Jim and said, how do you guys do it without using antibiotics and all those drugs? And he said, we never did it from day one. He says, it's easy. You just got to have the tools. And they said, how do you need the tools? He said, we will send Pavlov over. This is my last year work. We'll pay his plane ticket, and you take care of him over there. I put 7 meetings in Holland. You know how much grain they feed a cow in Holland? 2 tons with a computer. And they lost their grain market with Ukraine and Russia fighting, so they put the grain out. It was all grass. It was all grass. And so I had a field worked out for Organic Valley while I was out training farmers in California, in Oregon, and Washington. They would bring their marketers out from all the big box stores to the co-ops, and most of the buyers for the dairy world are young, educated females from 25 to 35 years old, smart as a whip. And we called it our dog and pony show because these gals are all organized. They know the difference between a pig and a cow. They might get a goat mixed up in there, but we were to show them how great we were. So I go to you are a prize dairy farmer here in the San Joaquin Valley, I'm in Esso. You didn't have any cows present today. Yeah, I got one that's about ready. Boy, I said, get her in the pen. Because she has that calf over here, we want to show what the calf is worth. And you're raising the calves, so we're going to show your calf operation. And you're doing this, and we're going to take a square shovel, and you've been organic for 8 years of organic. You're one of our prizes. I want to go out with a shovel, and I want to dig a hole in your pasture. And after 8 years of doing the LREC system, soil should look like chocolate cake. And so I take this shovel and I dig down square and I bring it up in my hand and it was just vibrating with life. And you'd see worms, red worms, angleworms, little red bugs, little gray bugs. And I mean, boy, I had those gals in the palm of my hand. I mean, they were just so happy. Then the worm would fall off. And I'd say, you could take 10 gallons of water in this hole and pour it in and it just, soil like that doesn't dry out. And so I go over to Holland and I'm going to do this dirt trick. First off, I walk out there and here's a cow patty. It's got 150 holes in it. I said, how old is this cow patty? They were in here 3 days ago. These are dung beetles. There's 3 kinds of dung beetles. And they know all these farmers. Oh, what happened? That's Clarence. I mean, yeah, you dung beetles. I'm standing there thinking, wow. Then I look around. Little purple plants. Beautiful plants. I said, when did you receive this? Oh, I haven't. He said, we received it in 1946 when we got back from the Germans. The Germans came into Holland and Belgium. First thing they did was they took all of their livestock. They took all of their crops. The Belgians and the Holland starved during World War II. There's some surveys that have been out that showed children born from 41 to 46 had no longevity. They had no food when they were born. It was a disaster to their life. And so he said, no, we haven't received it. The land has got CEC of 35. They got dung beetles. I took my shovel and it just went down. And it was the most beautiful soil I've ever seen. And I said, let's count how many plants are here. This is going to be on the test. A cow would like to eat 100 plants every 7 days. This is in a 1917 book on ruminant nutrition. Why? To stay balanced. Some plants have selenium, some plants have potassium, some plants have iron, some plants have silica, like your equestrian. You got some equestrian growing right out here. That's full of silica. And if they eat 100 plants, that cow stays balanced. It's the most balanced. Europe is so far ahead of us on the soils, you wouldn't believe. But they do add life. They do add life. And just full of these things. Now, humates feeds everything except earthworms and dung beetles. We probably have about 1,800 dairy farms in the Organic Valley. We've probably got 1,200 of them with dung beetles now. And it's amazing. This was when I was in practice and we had guys transition, I drive in to vaccinate calves or the pregnancy check, and it was an aha moment. I mean, I always say, well, what's new, Janet, or what's new, John? I got earthworms on my farm. You do? Yeah. It was just a hallelujah moment. I haven't had earthworms for forever, and I got earthworms. And so that means you're turning it around. So these are the microbes. Digest this for a minute. I hate to keep pounding this, but this is a tragedy when we're in, folks. I think within 5 years we probably will have glyphosate outlawed because we're getting more and more health issues that are looking at this. This is a chelator. It chelates. When you see ultrafot, when you see them spray soybeans and they overlap, and you get a yellow strip, that's Roundup that has chelated the selenium. Yes?
There's a movie on Netflix right now called Kiss the Soil. Kiss the ground.
Kiss the ground.
Yeah, it's called kiss the ground.
And it's the difference between, here's some dirt, and here's my land, it's soil.
Yeah, it's so good.
And it's in everything you're saying, Paul.
Yeah.
And they give us about 5 years.
There's a book out called Whitewash by Gillam, Gillim. I'm trying to think of her first name. She spoke at Acres 2 years ago. I got the award for Acres for lifetime achievement. And she wrote about glyphosate, how it got ran through the FDA, the USDA, and she has a target on her back. She is blackballed. They have done everything to her except kill her.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a target on my back because I wrote about BC Europe. I got a target on my back. Yeah, they probably know where I am today because I told the truth on BC current. This BC current coming back, we should redesign our whole country and bring our electricity out, and what we don't use, bring back with a four-wire system. And if we'd have listened to Tesla, we'd have done it. But we listened to Edison because Westinghouse supported Edison with the money. Tesla had ball lightning on Pikes Peak, nobody else has ever done. He was a genius. Yeah. Okay, these microbes are so important. Try it on your garden. Try it on your garden and just keep putting it on your stuff. You're going to raise the nutrient density. Okay? What's next on the list? Foliar spray. This is a fun one. This is a fun one. Where'd my walking stick go?
It's under A2A2.
There it is. Are you ready?
Gotcha.
I'm recording this so we can have little burps. I've got treatment. I've got an hour on goats. I've got an hour on raising bears, raising calves. I have an hour, I think, on the tools. If you call Dr. Paul's lab, and this is being set up, and you say, I want to hear about foliar spray, Megan will have foliar spray, me lecturing in this, and this is what Brittany is doing right now. And so Dr. Paul's is an educational company. We've got to train the masses. These younger generation folks are waking up. Foliar spray. I planted 40,000 walnut trees in 1971 and 40,000 white pine. Germans do it big, they don't do it. I bought a farm at the end of the valley with the spring on that was eroding, and I was born and raised in Flat, Minnesota, and on a farm we had 3 boxelder trees and 2 pine trees. And when I was in pre-vet, or in vet school, on St. Paul campus, students and farm students, so you were either dairy hus, forester, or vet. If I didn't get into vet school, I was going to be a forester, because you only have 5 trees. So I get to Arcadia, Wisconsin, in the hills, and our land is pretty cheap there compared to 100 miles west of where I'm from. And I'm selling it for $500, $600 an acre. I'm over here, and there's land for $100 an acre. I bought 150 acres, 80 open, 70 hardwoods, spring in the yard for $13,000. $3,000 down, I'll give you $10,000 over 4 years, $2,500 at 4%. Nobody could buy the farm. He wanted 15. The guy I was testing cattle with for brucellosis for Russian said, why don't you go buy Hawkins Farm at the end of the valley? It's a pretty little farm. You can't get 15 grand for it. So I called, went in, and I wrote it down. Talked a little bit, and I sent it out. As I'm walking out the door, the wife grabs that just as quick as she could. I think I just saw a farm. That farm, the last time it sold, I planted the trees. I had loaded up a lot of debt on a lot of land and a lot of houses, and we sold that farm for $200,000. I sold part of it off for $12,500. I got $1,000 for deer hunting, and we cleared out our debt. I sold it for $200. The last time I sold it was $485. I did that with 3 other farms. You're kicking right now. I did save some farms though. There's one farm I put these walnut trees on. I didn't know walnut trees needed to put corn soil. So 12 years later, I've got walnut trees that are 18 feet high. And over on this little knob, there's 150 of this big, with 17 yellow leaves, same age. I'm a Joe conventional vet. I called Bob up, like a dairy farmer, and I said, what do I need for these? What's the magic bullet? What do you put on them? Bob said, what do you do Tuesday? I said, look. I said, what are you not? You're going with me. Where am I going? Then they go listen to Jerry Zimmer, who's an icon in soils, still alive, Midwest Ballet. He knew the Albrecht system frontward and backward. I started learning soils. I went to class for 15 years. And that's where I got my knowledge. Foliar spray, I started playing around with my walnut trees with foliar spray. And did I get a response? You're feeding the plant through the leaf. You will raise the bricks. I have a 2-gallon sprayer, which most of you have. Little pump-up sprayer. Here's what you put in it. This is Dr. Scow, who was a master and wrote a book on foliar spray. We worked as consultants together. You take 3 ounces of liquid fish. Okay? You can get this at Cliff Rose. I was there. My son's foliar spray. You take 2 ounces of liquid molasses, 1 ounce of apple cider vinegar with the mother. Do you have apple cider vinegar? Out any place? Okay. We get apple cider vinegar from an orchard in Grove, Wisconsin that does not sell any of their good apples to retail. All their apples, their hybrids apples and that, go into apple cider vinegar. It's the sweetest apple cider vinegar you've ever tasted. If you've ever tasted Bragg's apple cider vinegar, which is $13 a quart, this is $18.50 or $19 a gallon, and you can drink it. It tastes good. And it's got the mother in it, okay? So you want apple cider vinegar. What is apple cider vinegar? Nobody but Dr. Scow. I lost my eraser again. Oh, no. That's a trick.
You keep talking, I'll look for it.
No, it's got legs on it. I saw it run. Here.
Yeah, you can do that. Here's what it's from. Oh, it's right here, I found it.
Thank you. I thought you did that. Look at that. We're going to get rid of the microbes. We're going to bury the microbes. Remember, if you learn one thing, learn about humate today. Dr. Scow was brilliant. Everybody has a formula, and he's got apple cider vinegar in his. I said, what does apple cider vinegar do? It lowers the pH or what? He says, no. It speeds up metabolism. Okay? This is the other side of the leaf. These are stomata. This is the breathing apparatus that takes in CO2, this is the beginning of the carbon cycle, then gives off oxygen. Here is a stomata. A stomata has big cilia, C-I-L-I-A, and short cilia. And when you put apple cider vinegar in your foliar spray, the cilia will dilate the stomata. This controls basic metabolism. Normally, it's the heart rate that controls metabolism with your thyroid gland. There's no heart in the plant, so you speed up photosynthesis because this takes in more air and it grows faster, and you're going to get better absorption through your leaf of your nutrients if you have a little apple cider vinegar in there.
Does that mean you can spray in the middle of the day? You don't have to, usually I spray when the temperatures are low and the stomata are open. So you're saying,
Stomata, work with sunshine. When the dew is off, once your dew is off a lot earlier here, and when it starts shutting down, you spray when you follow the bricks. Here's how bricks goes. The bricks is a daily thing in the plant. Here's 6 a.m., 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay? Here's my eraser, right your hand. Bricks will start out at 5, 10, 12, 15. If you start out at 5 in the morning and the sun starts coming out, it'll kind of go, it can be up to 10 bricks at 2 o'clock. Then it's going to stabilize there. And about sun goes down, starts tailing off, say at 8 o'clock, and then stay during the night. You want your, this stabilizes more. When do deer start eating? About 5 o'clock, and the bricks is high. When do you cut hay? You wait till about 12, 2 o'clock. Now, the Amish don't like to cut hay in the middle of the afternoon, which they should. And now we got this new make hay of the day. You get out there right after milking, 6 o'clock, and you cut hay. So you're cutting some low bricks hay. You want to cut, say, 11 o'clock to about 6 o'clock, and that's high bricks. Now, you don't want to cut real late because you want this to dry down to 70% sugar stays in it. If it's still high in sugar, when you cut it, it'll leach overnight and you'll have low bricks. So cutting this hay in a day, cutting really morning because it's easy on the horses and that, and we got a lot of milk being produced by the Amish and Mennonites. They are a growing agriculture entity, and I'm so happy to see that because these people produce good food. They're not chemicals. They're growing by leaps and bounds. That's how your bricks goes. Well, if you go out, here's where you want to spray in here. You want a dry leaf, and you want to mist it on. So we've got fish is your protein, molasses is your sugar. If you can't get molasses, take brown sugar and put it in water and use it. But molasses is around. Molasses has more than sugar. Molasses has a lot of trace elements. There's a lot of good thing in molasses. And so then an ounce of apple cider vinegar, a pint of whole milk. If you like cows or sheep or goats, milk is full of lactose, sugar. It's full of casein, which is protein. You can skip milk if you want. But if you got waste milk, use it here. 2 ounces of liquid kelp, full of trace elements for that plant. Full of trace elements. Humic acid, that's your humates. Cliff Rose has, I think, every one of these except apple cider vinegar. And the new Geisinger mills, that AC milling, they've got a lot of these. Now you spray lightning on the leaves. On fruit trees has a very permeable thin bark. Your apple orchards and your orchards will spray it on the bark. You spray it on the bark. Spray lightly on the tree leaves or the fruit. Now you want your soil test because you're probably going to want to look at putting some phosphorus on. Soft rock phosphate is either from Tennessee or Idaho. Phosphorus is in the sugar molecule. I got some apple trees. You got Honeycrisp out there? They're a Midwest apple tree. I got some Honeycrisp, and every year I'll sprinkle probably around each apple tree 3 pounds of soft rock phosphate to raise the bricks in the apple. And I put lime around them because we're short of calcium. Lime is the element of the cations because lime has 22 electrons and they are cations. So what do you have? You have 750 times 22 gives you 1,507, and then 215, so 15,250 ergs per Milhouse units of energy in calcium. So between calcium, you take the 20 top minerals going into a plant, calcium has the most energy, because someone with bigger numbers will be cation or anions that are only worth 250. What calcium does when it goes into a root air plant, it clears the energetic pathway for anything with a lesser charge to be absorbed easily. Calcium is king. And even though you have high calcium soils, you may want to tease it a little bit with gypsum, because you really need sulfur. And the calcium in gypsum goes into the plant quicker and not into the soil as quick as mine. So if you may want to put just a hair of gypsum on your garden to see what it does. Because that calcium and gypsum soil warms up quicker in the spring. You'll get to 70 degrees quicker. But I would do a soil test and lower that. When your plant or fruit hits 12 bricks, insects will not feed. So that's it for foliar spray. Next on the list is structured water. And then we'll go to